Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. This is CJ with CJ Loves Data, and today we're going to talk about one of the biggest blockers that entrepreneurs can face, and one that I've particularly faced myself on my journey, and that's overthinking. I'm working on becoming a solopreneur myself, but I don't know anything about growth, sales, or marketing. Since you can't become a successful entrepreneur without knowing those three things, I decided to go out and see what the experts were saying, and that's where I landed on Caleb Ralston and Ali Abdaal. They're incredibly successful entrepreneurs. They both offer courses online, they have millions of subscribers, and they both explicitly address overthinking as one of the biggest problems you can face. So like I mentioned before, I don't know anything about sales or marketing because I only started down the pathway of entrepreneurship probably less than a year ago. But I also know that sales and marketing are what opened me up to the possibility of failure and rejection. So that's very hard for me to step into that area because I know that going in, and that makes me uncomfortable. And that's also where overthinking comes in. So like I said before, I don't know anything about sales and marketing, and that's because I only started down the pathway of entrepreneurship probably somewhere less than a year ago. But I also know that sales and marketing are what opened me up to the possibility of rejection and failure. And knowing that before I step into that space is pretty difficult. And that's where I use overthinking as a mechanism for avoidance and self-sabotage. I know that if I need to figure out sales and marketing and that makes me uncomfortable and nervous, I'll overthink something. And if I overthink it, it's essentially a non-starter. I won't have to do the thing that I'm thinking about, therefore I don't have to deal with the consequences. So going into the example of sales and marketing, I know that sales and marketing are things that I need to know. I know these are things that all the super successful entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, they all know how to do. I know that logically, but there's something inside of me that still has a huge amount of difficulty getting over that amount of fear and anxiety. So I tend to overthink it. And when it comes to sales and marketing, I overthink it. And I do everything in my power to avoid having to deal with it. And in avoiding having to deal with it, I feel a little better. But I also know that I don't feel better because I'm not getting to the point where I want to be of accomplishing my goals. The one in particular being replacing my corporate salary with my entrepreneurship salary. The sales and marketing, like I said before, come with a certain level of exposure to rejection and failure. But the flip side of that coin is it also opens you up to the possibility of success. And sometimes I focus more on the former than the latter, and that's where a lot of the overthinking comes into play. There are two types of overthinking that I generally fall for, and the first one is the vulnerability trap. If I feel vulnerable going into a space, I'll talk myself out of entering the space in the first place. And this goes right back to the sales and marketing part, where I know sales and marketing can lead me to success, but it can also lead me to rejection and failure. I focus on the rejection and the failure. I know I don't want to feel that, so I decide, hey, how do I avoid feeling that way? I don't do the thing at all. And that's not very good. The second overthinking trap is the quality trap. It is this negative feedback loop where you can endlessly tweak something and come to the conclusion that it's not good enough, so you have to do a little more tweaking. So a little more tweaking, still not good enough, more tweaking, still not good enough. And you keep just staying in that cycle, and it's very, very hard to get out. But if I'm being honest, the reason that it's so hard to get out is because I don't want to deal with the failure and rejection or even the possibility of it that comes with the sales and marketing. So I'll endlessly start to expand whatever service or product I'm working on, and I'll always set the bar so high that I'll never be able to accomplish it. And that can be something that slows progress down tremendously. And I need that speed in order to get to these goals that I want to arrive at. Again, being replace my corporate salary with my entrepreneur salary. There's one more thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the quality trap, and that's the part of not good enough. So the quality trap has you in this space where something's not good enough, so I have to keep improving it, but I just improved it to the point where it's still not good enough. And it's that same negative feedback cycle that I just mentioned before. That goes completely against what I've seen most successful entrepreneurs do. They normally operate on the good is good enough principle. So there's a saying where C's get degrees in college, where if you get a C, you'll still graduate. And that's so much of the entrepreneurial mindset. And the real successful people I know, they really take that to heart. They build something up until it's just good enough to put out there, and they know that they can iterate on it later. And that's the complete opposite of the quality trap. And it's worth pointing out because I, as a relatively sane person, know that to be true, yet I still fall for these traps all the time. So we know that overthinking is a problem, and that's something that needs to get solved. I've been focused for the past week on trying to get through the overthinking problem, and that's where I ultimately landed on courses by Caleb Ralston and by Ali Abdaal. In both of their courses, they explicitly call out overthinking as a problem, which we already know. But luckily, they say that there's a way to get around overthinking, and that's doing something. You just have to do something, get it out the door, and you can always improve later. You shouldn't be setting yourself up for perfection from the beginning because you'll never get there. So if you start and set the bar lower, just put the video together, put it out there, and make the next one a little better, and the next one a little better. And you can iterate your way to progress and success using that method. This is something that I knew, but I only sometimes did, which is pretty frustrating because I already knew without having to go to the experts what the problem was and what the solution was, but I still kept falling for the problem. So I took what they said to heart, and I just started to do things much quicker than I would have in the past. I'm taking Ali Abdaal's 7-day YouTube challenge, I think it's called, and you can find it over here somewhere. And in that challenge, Ali tells you himself, get a video out there and improve on it later. For my first video, I was starting to fall into the overthinking trap. I was trying to perfect everything before I even set up the camera. And I eventually got pissed off to the point where I said, okay, fuck this. I'm not gonna deal with that anymore. I'm just gonna turn the camera on. I'm going to record the video and I'm just gonna upload it. And it worked. It's almost like I didn't give myself enough time to even start overthinking. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think that's a strategy that can absolutely work. That put my first video on my YouTube channel out there, which will be somewhere over here, and you can go check it out. It's got its mistakes, but I don't really care as much as I used to. There's funny little quirks that I can find where the spotlight is super, super bright, and it almost feels like there's a police spotlight kind of shining down on me. And another is the background, where the background looks kind of better this time. But before, you could just see a bunch of stuff sitting over there, but that's fine. I can focus on those things, but it's probably more important to focus on the fact that the overthinking problem got resolved temporarily. This isn't something that I'm gonna stop dealing with forever, but the video got put out there and there's already things that I can improve on and that this video right now is improving on. Like the background, for example. I got the chair, I got a plant, it looks nicer than just a couple boxes and dirty laundry laying around. So being able to do that actually felt like a pretty big win. Now I can take this example and bring it back to really successful people, and overthinking is still something that they struggle with. I don't think it's something that you ever completely get over. I think you just find a better way to address it. And now it puts me in a space where I can take a step back when I'm starting to feel a certain way and my mind's starting to race. I can take that step back and realize, okay, cool, just do the thing. Don't overthink it, just do it. Is it gonna be perfect? No, but perfect was never really the goal in the first place. And one pretty cool thing that I wanna mention about the YouTube channel that I created is that I put that first video out there, and now I think my channel has 2 or 3 subscribers, and that video in particular had 2 or 3 comments. And that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. There are people with millions of followers, thousands of commenters for any given video. But in this little space that I exist in, it was really cool to see I dealt with the overthinking. I got through the overthinking, and when I moved forward, I was able to start to see some pretty quick results. And that felt like a really big win for this little tiny area that I exist in. So where I'm at right now is that it was pretty nice to have my feelings validated by people who I clearly think are successful and that I look up to, and I would like to replicate some aspect of their success. Yes, that validation felt good, but what felt way, way better was knowing that in this particular instance, I was able to overcome the overthinking part. And just that little action alone put a whole bunch of wind in my sails, and that's definitely something I want to carry over into the next week. I think movement is the answer. And the real important piece to focus on is that movement can be imperfect, but it's still movement nonetheless. So that's it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. You can find my most recent videos somewhere over here. If there's any topics you want me to discuss for future videos, please leave a comment in the comment section. I'll do my absolute best to respond. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and you want to follow my experiences on this crazy, weird path to entrepreneurship. Bye-bye.